The traffic that evening felt endless, and every red light seemed determined to make me even later for my company's annual corporate dinner. My phone buzzed twice with messages from coworkers asking where I was, but I ignored them, convinced I would only miss the opening speeches. My wife, Emily, had already gone ahead because she insisted she didn't want to arrive late. I smiled as I imagined her chatting politely with my colleagues. I had no reason to doubt her. After 12 years of marriage, trust had become second nature. I had no idea that within the next few minutes, everything I believed about my life would begin to collapse. When I finally entered the grand ballroom, the room sparkled with elegant decorations, soft music, and the sound of people laughing over glasses of wine. I paused near the entrance, searching for Emily among the crowd. Then I saw her. She wasn't sitting with my co-workers or waiting for me. Instead, she stood near the balcony doors wrapped tightly in another man's arms. Before I could even process what I was seeing, he leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't an awkward misunderstanding or a friendly greeting. It was intimate, familiar, and deliberate. In that single moment, the noise of the entire room disappeared. My first instinct was to charge across the room and confront him in front of everyone. Every muscle in my body begged me to react. But years of controlling my emotions stopped me. I quietly stepped behind a decorative pillar where neither of them could see me. As I watched, Emily smiled at the man in a way I hadn't seen her smile at me for months. They whispered something to each other before laughing together. That laugh hurt far more than the kiss itself, because it sounded genuine. Instead of creating a scene, I reached into my pocket, unlocked my phone, and pressed the record button. The more I observed, the stranger the situation became. Several senior executives seemed to know the man personally, yet no one appeared surprised to see him standing so close to my wife. A waiter handed them champagne, and they toasted together before disappearing briefly onto the balcony. I quietly followed at a distance, careful not to be noticed. Standing outside the partially open glass door, I heard fragments of their conversation. Emily spoke about waiting a little longer and not letting him suspect anything. My heart pounded so loudly that I could barely hear the rest, but I'd already heard enough to realize this wasn't a one-time mistake. It had been planned. Instead of walking away, I made a decision that would change everything. I returned to the ballroom, greeted my co-workers as though nothing had happened, and even apologized for arriving late. Everyone assumed I was simply delayed by traffic. Emily eventually returned inside with a stranger, acting as though nothing unusual had happened. When she noticed me across the room, her face briefly froze before she forced a warm smile and hurried over to kiss my cheek. "I'm so glad you made it," she whispered. I smiled back just as warmly, pretending I believed every word she said while my phone safely stored everything I had witnessed. The evening continued with speeches, awards, and polite applause, but my mind never left the recording in my pocket. During dinner, I quietly asked one of my trusted co-workers about the mysterious man. His expression immediately changed. "That's Daniel," he replied. "He's a consultant who's been working closely with upper management for almost a year." Almost a year. The words echoed in my head because that was exactly when Emily had suddenly become distant, started working late more often, and guarded her phone like it contained state secrets. Suddenly, every strange moment from the past 12 months began fitting together like pieces of a puzzle. As the CEO stepped onto the stage to thank everyone for another successful year, I realized this perfect celebration was about to become unforgettable, but not for the reasons anyone expected. I wasn't interested in shouting, throwing punches, or embarrassing myself. I wanted the truth to reveal itself in a way no one could deny. Quietly, I connected my phone to the ballroom's presentation system that employees had been using throughout the evening. My finger hovered over the screen while hundreds of guests continued smiling, completely unaware that within seconds, the happiest room in the building was about to fall into absolute silence. The ballroom lights dimmed as the CEO invited everyone to watch a short highlight reel celebrating the company's biggest achievements of the year. Before the presentation began, I quietly switched the video source from the slideshow to my phone. At first, no one noticed a change. Then the giant screen displayed crystal clear footage of Emily wrapped in Daniel's arms, followed by the unmistakable kiss I had recorded less than an hour earlier. Gasps echoed across the room. Conversation stopped instantly. Every pair of eyes turned from the screen to my wife and then to Daniel, whose confident smile disappeared within seconds. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Emily's face drained of color. She stumbled backward, desperately trying to explain that the video didn't show the full story, but nobody interrupted the recording. The audio captured every whispered promise they had exchanged outside on the balcony. Daniel attempted to grab the microphone, insisting everything had been taken out of context, yet his trembling voice betrayed him. The executives who had greeted him earlier looked stunned and embarrassed. Several employees lowered their heads, while others whispered in disbelief. For the first time that evening, I walked calmly toward the stage, not with anger in my eyes, but with quiet disappointment that everyone could clearly see. Standing before hundreds of co-workers, I took the microphone without raising my voice. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I came here expecting to celebrate another successful year with the woman I've loved for 12 years. My words echoed through the ballroom. Instead, I discovered that the person I trusted most had already chosen someone else. Emily started crying, repeating my name over and over, begging me to listen. I looked at her for several seconds before speaking again. Trust doesn't disappear because of one mistake. It disappears because of 1,000 lies leading to that mistake. Just when everyone thought the truth had finally been exposed, another surprise unfolded. The CEO stepped forward, holding a folder that had been delivered to him earlier that afternoon by the company's internal audit team. Daniel wasn't simply a consultant involved in an affair. He had secretly been manipulating company contracts, approving fake invoices through a network of shell businesses, and using his relationship with several employees to avoid suspicion. Emily had unknowingly signed documents he asked her to process, believing they were routine approvals. The investigation had already begun before the dinner, and tonight's public exposure accelerated everything. Daniel suddenly realized his personal scandal had become a criminal investigation. Security entered the ballroom within minutes. Daniel tried to leave through a side exit, but 2 officers waiting outside stopped him before he reached the parking lot. As they escorted him back through the ballroom, every guest watched in complete silence. Emily stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as she realized the man she had trusted had been using her for months. She had believed his promises about a future together, but now she understood she had been nothing more than another convenient piece in his carefully planned deception. Watching him led away in handcuffs, she finally understood that betrayal always destroys everyone involved. After the officers left, the ballroom remained unusually quiet. Emily slowly walked toward me, no longer trying to defend herself. She admitted that her relationship with Daniel had begun months earlier during work meetings, and that she had convinced herself our marriage had become routine. She confessed that every lie she told made the next lie easier until she no longer recognized the person she had become. I listened without interrupting, because there was nothing left to argue about. Some apologies arrived too late. No amount of regret can rebuild trust once it has been shattered beyond repair. Deep inside, I already knew my decision. The following weeks changed my life in ways I never expected. I filed for divorce peacefully, without revenge or endless courtroom battles. I focused on rebuilding my career, reconnecting with family, and finding the confidence I had slowly lost during the final year of my marriage. Surprisingly, many co-workers reached out to support me, admitting they had admired the calm way I handled the situation instead of reacting with violence. The company removed everyone connected to Daniel's fraudulent schemes, and several new policies were introduced to prevent similar misconduct. What began as the worst night of my life slowly became the beginning of a better one. Almost a year later, I drove past the same hotel where the corporate dinner had taken place. For a brief moment, I remembered the pain of walking through those ballroom doors and seeing my entire world fall apart. Then I smiled, not because I enjoyed remembering betrayal, but because I had survived it. Losing someone who no longer valued my loyalty turned out to be a blessing disguised as heartbreak. Sometimes life doesn't destroy your future. It removes the people who would have destroyed it for you. I arrived late to that corporate dinner, expecting an ordinary celebration. Instead, I walked away with the truth, and in the end, the truth became the greatest victory of all.